Welcome to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that puts you right in the heart of women's hockey. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and each week I'm on a mission to showcase the incredible women who are lighting up the ice across the globe. Get ready as I chat with rising stars, seasoned pros, and all the game changers making waves in the world of women's hockey that you won't find anywhere else. So, let's dive into the exciting world of women's hockey and make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode. Hello and welcome back to the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Megan Warner, a goaltender with the University of Connecticut. Megan, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm good. Just finished up practice, so ready to continue talking about hockey.
All right, all fired up, eh?
Yep.
Love it. Okay, so with obviously hockey is often on your mind. When we think about hockey, let's talk about your origin story. I love a good origin story. What was it about hockey that really kind of drew you to the sport when you think about like how everything got started for you?
I think it started as most younger sisters. I have an older brother who was into hockey, and I just wanted to be better than him. So we had great competitions in the driveway nonstop. And then my first year of hockey, I actually was able to be on his team with my dad coaching. So it just was super easy, and I just wanted to continue to get better. And the more I played with older kids and the older girls, the more I wanted it.
I love that competitive sort of nature that you had even early on. When you think about, and we're going to get into family in just a moment, but when you think about like when it first started out, was it always goaltending or goaltender or bust, or was it that you were also like you would switch? He would be goaltender, you would be, a forward, what have you? Was it always goaltender for you?
In the driveway, it was always goaltender.
Yeah.
Being the younger sister, that's what it was. But I didn't start out as goaltender. I was defense first. I played a little bit of center, just with my dad coaching. He said, "You just go where we need you to go," and I loved playing defense. It was, again, still that last resort kind of line, which I loved. I loved people. I loved the pressure of it, and just that last line of defense. So anytime we didn't have a goalie, I would volunteer. And then I got started to get invited back out to more skates and the higher level skates, but as a goaltender. So I just kind of filled in there and never looked back.
Do you ever feel like you're like, you know what, I really want to score some goals for a change? Is that ever something that's kind of like crosses your mind? Or as you said, is it more important for you to be able to be that last line of defense and, get that big save, that really important moment? Is that maybe is something that's become more important to you?
I think the big save has a little bit more of adrenaline than a goal, because a goal is it's all a team effort, even big saves. Can't do anything without my defense still being there. Sometimes I want to score a goal, but for now I'll settle for an assist.
Yeah. Settle for an assist. Yeah. That's a goalie assist is never a bad thing at all.
Exactly.
So obviously, I would say the inspiration of your brother, but maybe the drive of trying again, as you've said, to be better than him when it comes to hockey. Could you maybe just talk a little bit more about the impact that family had on you throughout, like early on, of course, but also throughout your career, even to this moment, as now you're in your going into your fourth year at Connecticut.
Yeah, I think family is everything. It's how you get started in hockey, and the sacrifices my entire family has made, including my brother. So whether that's driving to practice or taking time off work to go to tournaments further and further away, even just the sacrifices of who's going to go to this tournament versus my brother's other things, and just complete sacrifice all round. But even the support they wouldn't miss a thing. I think this year my parents are coming up for almost every weekend. It's gonna be harder to get rid of them, but it's a good thing.
Yeah,
So
because I wanted to know as well, and I don't want to skip too far forward, but it makes sense that we would talk about it now. But you know, how has that support maybe evolved as you've now started your collegiate career, specifically from your family? And we can even talk about friends and stuff like that. But it's one thing when it's like more of a local rink. It's more of like you could just basically drive somewhere.
mhm.
Maybe it's an hour, not to diminish that it's still a long drive, but you can drive somewhere. But now often it's that you have to fly places, or you have to like, it's a lot more, there's a lot more planning that goes into being able to support you.
Yeah.
How has that support kind of evolved for you throughout your, now that you're in your collegiate career?
Yeah, I started hockey in Stony Creek where I live. So it was a 5-minute drive. My parents some days would drop me off at the rink, come back and pick me up. But now it's a lot more planning, as you said. But the effort is always there. And even in the summers when I am able to practice closer to home, my dad's always up there watching from above still. So the support is consistent, which is really nice and kind of makes my life easier here. If some hard parts in college are now I have to go buy my own groceries. So little things like that when they get to come up, and even come watch practice on a Thursday afternoon before we play on the Friday. Those things just mean a little extra now.
Yeah, it's perspective, right? It's
Mhm.
added perspective. Yeah, I love that.
Always.
Well, you kind of hinted at it, so thank you for providing a really good segue into the next question, which is, um, as you look back, as you reflect on your career, even now into your collegiate career or the collegiate segment of your career, what were some of the obstacles or maybe some of the challenges that you've had to face? Um, as you pursue this as you pursue your career in hockey?
Yeah, I think a big obstacle for everybody now was COVID. Um, Thankfully, I was already committed to UConn, so I had this clear, direct line. I still had a goal in mind. When I think for a lot of people, that kind of took a pause. So being able to already be committed by the time COVID hit was super helpful. All through COVID, I was still very driven, very motivated by that next level that I could see myself at. Um, and then throughout college, I think my biggest obstacle was, I'd say, my sophomore year. I got a concussion that took me out for a little bit. So just being able to come back from that is huge. It's not something that I really saw myself being on an injured reserve list, right? Nobody ever sees himself there. So when it happens, I think that's when you need your family to step in more, but also that second family that you create around the team.
Yes, and I thank you for kind of setting that up as well. When you're injured, and this is something that, as a fan, you'll watch a game, you're like, okay, if they're injured, that sucks. Like, obviously, I'm diminishing it greatly, but like that sucks. They're injured, but okay, there's another goalie. Like, like let's just cheer for whomever's in net. When you're on the other side of it, though, what does it mean to go through that kind of experience and then persevere? And you know how does it feel to come out the other side, and maybe and how has that changed your sort of perspective on yourself as a player but also as a person?
I think when you get injured, you can go one of two ways. You can either have the sorry for yourself attitude,
Mm.
or as you're injured, you can still be a great teammate. So I think that separates a lot of people at that point. You can score 10 goals a game, but if you're not a good teammate, you're not going to continue and you're not going to have the same motivation with your teammates. As somebody who chooses, okay, I'm not in this game, I can be a good teammate still. So I think that goes along a lot with being injured or even being a healthy scratch as freshmen a lot. So any game I'm even not in, not doesn't have to be because of injury. If I'm not in for a game, you go to that extra skate, do the extra workout. You still have to be a good teammate and be ready. So I feel like by getting injured, it's not, oh, I get a break. I get a couple weeks for a break. It's not, right? It's okay, what can I do off the ice? What can I do for my mental game? What can I do for the team?
And how do you think you've grown since that experience? Like, how do you think you personally have grown, and then maybe how are you not necessarily influencing your peers, but like maybe thinking about how you want to conduct yourself when it comes to the next generation?
Yeah, I think I've grown tremendously over the last 4 years in my confidence level. People that I played with freshman year didn't think I talked. So, big difference between me as a freshman and me as a senior. Again, great teams have great teammates. I will preach that so many times. Even as I coach the younger kids throughout Stony Creek all summer, I tell them like being a good teammate is how you will get recognized because nobody wants to play with a poor teammate. So having that confidence level too, that you don't need to outshine, you just need to do your best every day. And even if you have 80% that day, you still give 100% of that 80% you have. So I think that's something I learned a lot at UConn, and especially from my coaches. So that being able to communicate part and the confidence of just do your best every day and let the outside distractions be outside the rink.
All right. So you keep giving me these assists, and I appreciate it. These goalie assists, because this brings up a great point, which is the community, right? Like, it's not just about you, and the success that you have on the ice, but it's about also having the opportunity to give back to the communities. Stony Creek being one example of many. Um, when you when you sit down and you think about what it's like to be able to connect with the community, to be able to give back to the community, what does that mean to you?
I actually started coaching when I was the U18 level, so the midget AA level in Stony Creek. I got invited out to the Adams, what's that, youth U11 now. I got invited out to be their goalie coach. Honestly, I was very surprised when I got that text message. It's like, you want a 16-year-old to coach 11-year-olds? But from that day, I really haven't stopped coaching goalies. It gives me that perspective of, okay, I know how to do this, but why are we doing these specific movements, and how can I communicate that? It honestly makes me better. But I can also see and really appreciate the art of goaltending at that point. So I've coached in Stony Creek for many, many years since I was 16. And then when I got here, I was actually able to start helping goalie coach with the junior Huskies that play out of our rink as well. So that organization, I'm actually on the ice with them tonight. I'm running a goalie clinic, which is just super fun. But you can also see as goalies move out of certain organizations, right? In girls hockey, there's a lot of flipping organizations. You can move from Stony Creek to Oakville and Burlington. There's little movements, but I still get text messages from my first year of coaching goaltenders. They're texting me, they're asking me about different equipment, they tell me about their games, they're looking for that little bit of extra confidence boost or just some comments, some feedback. So it's really interesting to watch them grow up as well.
Um, Throughout these experiences that you've had, which is absolutely incredible, and that's one of the things about hockey where it just like, and I'm sure it happens with a lot of sports, but I think it's specific with hockey where it's that community. Like, it really is, like, not only is it like within hockey players, is it a community, but there is such a connection between the hockey players and the community itself, right? When you
It's a
look,
small world. Yeah.
exactly, absolutely, it is. Yeah. What are some of your favorite experiences that you've had since being able to connect with the community? I mean, obviously, coaching, getting those text messages, absolutely is probably near, if not at the top of that list. But what are some of your favorite experiences being able to give back to the community and connect with the community itself?
Actually, this past summer, I was able to work with and help run the Stony Creek girls hockey summer camp. So I actually got to talk with a bunch of them. most of them I coached for my very first year of coaching, and now they're at the junior level. So I can now see them. They start to get committed. They're asking so many questions about that process as well. And then, what's the school like? How's it playing against that school? So the questions have also changed,
Mm.
but I was able to give kind of a speech, but more so a question and answers type of situation with that junior team and even the midget AA team at Stony Creek. So just being able to see them grow up and then also ask me those questions, you can see the questions evolve. I get to tell them more and more about my experiences and how much I love UConn. So just helping them make the right decision, I think is really, really cool.
All right. So once again, she sets me up with a perfect segue. So thank you. So obviously it's clear that through your connections within the community and coaching and those sorts of things, a lot of people look up to you, right? They're asking, like you said, they're asking you those questions. They're great questions, just like, what's next? How do I do this? What equipment do I need? All those sorts of things. You've become a role model, whether you're aware of it or not. You've become a role model for a lot of people, and I hope you do. I hope you do. Take a moment to reflect and see that. When you were going, and even now, when you're looking at your career, who were some of those role models or those influences that you had throughout your own career that you leaned on, or like whether it was direct contact or maybe it was, I just aspire to be that person. Who were some of those people for you?
I mean, playing through Stony Creek my entire life, we have a big alumni wall of where everyone played. So just throughout Stony Creek, you can see the greatness that has been achieved. And I got to play for the same junior coach as like Sarah Nurse or Laura Fortino. Some big hockey names played in Stony Creek. And throughout COVID, Sarah Nurse actually was able to come help support the team and come to a couple practices when applicable for her as well. But just being able to have that direct contact was huge. I'm also at the same school Elaine Shuley was at, and I got to meet her so many years ago before I was even thinking about UConn. I was able to meet her and go on the ice with her a couple times. So I think that direct contact with these big name players, and they're professional players now. So knowing people in this PWHL league is huge. It's super interesting to see. Oh, yep, she played for Stony Creek. I played with her. I practiced with her. I feel like I'm old now. I'm getting there, but I'm definitely can see the league, and I can see where everyone originated.
So we're going to talk about the PWHL, but it's just like I really want to ask this question now. How cool is it for you to be able to sit back and see? And let's put aside the success of the league. We'll talk about that and all that sort of stuff in just a moment. But specific to the players that who are playing in that league, how cool is it? But also, how inspiring is it for you to be able to see these players that you're like, I was on the ice, like I literally had a conversation with this player, and I know them, and we've had conversations. Like, just how cool and inspiring is that?
It is super cool. And even this summer, anytime I had the chance to go on the ice with anyone in the PWHL, I'm taking that chance. I will do whatever it takes. And it's really interesting to think that other people think the same way about me. Oh, that's super cool. I was on the ice with her. Where I'm seeing it now, looking upwards. So able to go on the ice, even new players coming into the league, especially. I played just a year under Megan Carter, and I'm great friends with her family. I played with her younger sister and even coached her youngest sister. So the connections are right there where I'm just super happy for all of them who got drafted and everyone in the league. But it's really, really cool when I just get to watch the game, and I get to watch it as I'm watching my friends.
It must be really inspiring though, too, right? Like, just like I can't imagine a better drive than to see these people that they've made it, and
And they
now you're.
started, yeah, they started where I started. And they've been where I've been. So if I just continue you can look up to them. And I also know because they're now people that I know and my friends, I can say, what do I need to do? I can ask them those more specific questions of what did you do when you were in this space? And what can I do? So it's really, really inspiring and also super motivating. I'm like, they played here, I played here. What's next, right?
Well, and that must also, we go back to the role model kind of the role model question. When you have the community speaking with you, those players connecting with you, and having these exact same kinds of conversations, you're literally like you can speak from experience because you're feeling the same sort of inspiration, the same sort of motivation that they must be feeling. Do you find that as a result of those conversations that you're having? With yourself, but also these connections that you've made in the PWHL, do you find that also helps to translate to how you connect with, the next generation and inspire the next generation?
Yeah, I think it definitely has an impact on me. And then as I take those things that I learn from these older girls and I apply them to my own game, I now know that I can help somebody else apply it. Whether that's on the ice, there's also so many things off the ice now. Whether that's in the gym, doing an extra mobility day, or work on your mental game, that's something that I've taken away from those older girls. It definitely takes time and especially effort to learn those little details because everyone knows what they need to do on the ice or even in the gym. But it's the little details on top of that now that I have implemented into my game and I can see what works, but I can also see what works for others around me because I'm in such that family oriented space here at UConn. I can fully see what works for somebody and I can help give options and relay that message onto the younger generations too.
Oh, I love that. And that's what it's about. It's about the growth of the game, and it's every little piece makes completes that puzzle, right? So it's great to hear that story. And you've mentioned, and I mentioned off the top, but you're attending University of Connecticut. Kind of want to know, I know that it's going back a couple of years, but what goes into the process for you? And maybe this is a conversation that would help inspire another future women's hockey star. But what goes into the process of selecting where you're going to go, where you're going to continue your hockey career collegiately, and for you specifically, what went into the decision to attend UConn?
Yeah, so I know there's actually a rule change now, but I started talking to schools when I was in grade 8, and it was very nerve-wracking, right? Getting a first phone call from a school that I didn't even know NCAA was a possibility for me at that point. I was just playing the game because I love it, and obviously I still do. But there was a little bit of a switch in motivation at that point as well when you start reaching out to schools. And one thing I think is missed a lot, especially now after the rule change, is that everyone kind of waits for schools to reach out to them. I did the opposite. I reached out to a bunch of schools when I was doing my recruiting, and UConn was one of them. I knew a couple other girls who had attended UConn from Stony Creek, and had always heard of UConn. Of course, it's a big sports school and a big school in general. So I kind of made a list for myself of things I was looking for. I knew I wanted a big school. I knew what program I wanted. So putting all these things together, I also compiled a list of schools I knew would need goaltenders for my year of graduation. So putting all this extra research into it allowed me to narrow down my list super easy. And so I reached out to UConn. There were a couple other schools as well. But then our team in U15, so Bantam, we did a tournament up in Boston. And because there were a couple alumni girls from Stony Creek playing at UConn, we stopped by, did a tour with the coach, who's now my head coach, Chris McKenzie. So we did a tour, and from the moment I stepped off the bus, I said, "This is the place," which is crazy because, of course, I'm sure there's a couple other girls on the team who said that as well, and then made other decisions. But stepping off the bus anywhere else wasn't the same feeling. So there definitely is a feeling you get when it's the right place. And that's something hard to describe, right? I think I stepped off the bus into the middle of campus and there was a drum circle going on and just everyone enjoying themselves. So each time I got the opportunity to come visit again, I did, whether that was a summer camp that I got invited to or an official visit. Every time I stepped off the bus, I had the same feeling. And it's interesting because I still get that feeling every time I move back into campus after a long summer. So people definitely need to listen to their gut feelings on that.
Yeah, and obviously the impact of being able to like feel a true connection to a university. Obviously, that's something really, really important. And I think that's undervalued and maybe underappreciated, is that like sometimes, like you may feel as though you you just have to go to a university, like you just pick a university, but sometimes the university picks you. And it sounds as though that's exactly what happened in this case. And that's really, really interesting to hear.
Yeah. And I think a lot of schools kind of do the flashiness of it. They're like, oh, look at these cool shoes we give you every year. And look at this, here's a media day. UConn's not like that. UConn is definitely flashy in its own sense. But even my coach said from day one, we're not marketing ourselves to you. You either want to come here or you don't. So there's a little bit of a different attitude I think my coaches have, which also creates the culture, right? You're not getting promised anything when you commit to UConn. You are working your butt off every day. So when I committed, we were actually still in Mark Freitas, which is an old rink. Look it up when you get a chance. But a really old rink, next to no bleachers. Our men's team didn't play there. They had to drive to Hartford. So we actually just got a brand new rink 2 years ago. But I didn't know that when I committed. I wasn't committing for flashiness. I was committing for the school.
Yeah, I think that's something that when you talk about culture, when you talk about it being more than just the fancy stuff, like the fancy stuff only carries you so far. Like I can wear a pair of shoes, but like that's not going to make me a better player, right? It's going to be the culture that is created and instilled in me from day one. And it sounds like that was the case. And when you think about that, what have been some of your biggest takeaways about your time thus far at Connecticut? And how do you think your time there has helped to shape you as, the obvious would be a goaltender, because like that's a big part of it, but also as a person?
Yeah. So again, my coaches really harp on the character aspect. And that is, of course, not everyone needs to be the same. It's not a cookie cutter. We have a lot of different personalities on the team. So I think it's a lot about learning where you fit in, and they give you that space to also grow as a person. You're definitely not babysat when you're here. It is do what you need to do or you're not going to play kind of thing. So as a team, we don't have study hall, which is very surprising when you hear about a lot of other teams, or even other teams on campus have mandatory study hall hours. And but I think the freedom that he gives us allows us to shape ourselves and go in the direction that we need to go as people, right? So some people are really good at studying on their own and some people need groups. But in general, that goes for life. You need to figure out what works for you, and you need to be able to set that time aside to do what you need to do. So it's definitely something my coaches harp on is you get here, you're an adult. It's not really thrown in the deep end. Of course, you have your seniors. And now as a senior, we're now looking after the freshmen of, hey, do you guys need help with this? Oh, I took this class. So I think in university, that's a really big part of it is you're now an adult. So I think that was something you really had to learn and figure out as you go. Time management. You don't have your parents looking over your shoulder saying, you need to do your homework. You need to go to the rink now. you need to wake up on time. No one's going to wake you up, right? You got to get up. You need to be motivated to be there early and ready. So I think a lot of that is also what I learned here is the little details. It's not show up for practice, get on the ice. It is, okay, we need to stretch, roll out. You need to do an extra bike session. You need to do this extra lift. It's all the extra things that add up. So I think before I would even take more of a rest day approach. I'm like, oh, I earned a rest day. But now it's that rest day isn't laying in my bed for 9 hours of the day. That rest day is I need to get up, I need to fuel my body, I need to go for a walk. So I think the little details and learning that for myself is going to carry me for the rest of life, honestly.
And now, a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by sports nutritionist Melissa Buffunos of MB Performance Nutrition. As a former competitive hockey player turned nutritionist, Melissa's mission is to help the next generation of hockey players optimize their diets and health so they can perform their best both on and off the ice. Ready to dominate on the ice? Melissa's new course, The Hockey Nutrition Blueprint, is available now. If you're serious about learning how nutrition can impact performance and building actionable nutrition strategies based on your unique needs as an elite hockey player, learn more and sign up at melissabuffunos.com/course. That's melissabuffunos.com/course, and make sure to use code Rinkside to save $50 off the regular price. Thank you to Melissa Buffunos for sponsoring this episode. And now, back to the show. Well, I was going to ask you if you had any advice for future generations of women's hockey players, but I feel like that just summed it up right there. That was profound advice, and I think also advice for really anyone. But I think especially as we're starting to see the growth of women's sports in general, but specifically women's hockey. Like it's all of those little things like that you just shared that really add up to how you're going to differentiate yourself, how you're going to really push yourself. Knowing yourself as well, I think is just as important, right? Like knowing, you kind of alluded to it, but knowing when to push yourself, maybe when to take your foot off the pedal a little bit so that you respect your body, you respect your mind. You've touched on it a few times, but the mental side of the game is also something that is really important, right? How do you think, everyone thinks that it's all about, you just got to push yourself, you got to work out, you got to get reps, all those sorts of things. How do you think the balance of that and the mental side, how important is that?
I think the mental side is huge, but a part of that isn't only the mental side of hockey, right? There's so many different techniques there's breathing before a game and there's meditation, and it's all surrounded about hockey. But I think a part of the mental side is also having a life outside of hockey, because hockey's not always going to go perfect. So when you need to step away from the game, you need to have that avenue. You can't be sitting here, okay, all my friends are within the rink, or I only know what to do when I'm at the rink. You need to have other things outside of hockey that are able to ground you and bring you back to why you enjoy hockey. So I think sometimes when hockey's not going well, it's that extra effort to just step away for a second. And when you come back, you have the gratitude, because when you have gratitude towards the game, there's nothing wrong in the game.
Well, it's certainly a lot more fun too, right?
Exactly. And that's the whole point of hockey.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah. We've talked about, the early days for you, what got you into hockey, what inspired you, some of those role models. As you look, you're on the, I want to say the back nine of your collegiate career, if you will. When you look at what's next for you, one of those options absolutely could be the PWHL, right? And we touched on it a little bit earlier as well, but I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what it means. It's easy as a fan of women's hockey, and I know that you are as well, but it's easy for me as a fan of women's hockey to just be thrilled with seeing the success of the inaugural season, the enthusiasm, and unwavering support over this long off season, and anticipation for the second season. But what does it mean for you as someone who not long ago you didn't know that, like, there was no professional league, right? The options were you either lean on your degree or diploma, or you go overseas. What does it mean for you to see this support, this enthusiasm, sellout crowds, all those things, knowing that this could be part of your future?
Yeah, it's super interesting, and I watched the draft last year. I watched the very first games. I still try to watch every single game I can. It's super exciting for me, also as a fan. But that extra piece of motivation that it brings me each day. Every time I look on social media, there's more and more things being posted. I saw the other day Toronto is now playing out at the Coca-Cola Coliseum, just a bigger venue, and it's just going to continue to grow. So for myself, it's that extra push of motivation, that extra, I guess, say a little bit of pressure, but I love pressure. So just that little bit of an extra push. And the days that you don't want to do it, there's more of a reason to do it. Because again, before it was your career's done after college, or you play 1 or 2, maybe 3 years at the max, pretty much, overseas, which is still a great option. They have some really good teams, and I think as the game grows, that'll become more and more of a legitimate, also professional league, to look over there as well. Um, but for me, it's waking up every day with just that little bit more motivation and a little bit of pride when you now tell somebody, from even my hometown, I say, "Oh yeah, I'm still in my last year at UConn here," and so then they're like, "Oh, what's next?" They're like, "You're gonna enter the draft." Like, you can see people who aren't in hockey also have that pride in women's hockey. So I think they're the best role models, and even I still look up to them. I watch every interview. I watch everything I can. I just soak it all in.
So, with that in mind, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I kind of wanted to expand on when we talk about the PWHL, we talk about the success there. Now there's finally a league where you have all the best players. There aren't enough teams for all the best players. That's how many great women's hockey players there are. What do you think have finally establishing one cohesive league with the best players and financial backing and the support from the fans and all of this enthusiasm? What do you think this does when you reflect on your own journey when it comes to grassroots and not necessarily the professional level, but what's coming next? What do you think this does for what's coming next and the growth of women's hockey?
I think it's massive, whether that's the people still within that small community of hockey. You can see just the respect level of the women's game growing and growing. And that's all due to this league and due to the types of people and players that are in it. You wouldn't see a bad teammate in the PWHL. And I will go again and again on great teams have great teammates, and that's the entire PWHL, and the girls who are getting drafted. So you can see the respect level from people who don't know anything about hockey. They are starting to respect the game. They're respecting the work that we have to put in every single day. But I think looking back on my own career, I think that this is just a blessing at the timing level of it, and that it's still super new as I'm coming out of college. I think it's perfect timing. I think everything is kind of aligning in the sky, if that's what you want to say. But you can also see it in the younger girls I coach, and girls in the gym. They are putting that extra effort in, and they're starting younger and younger, to train in the gym, whether that's extra shooting pucks. You can see the motivation, and you can just see it in their eyes. Before, all we talked about was college. Oh, you're going to play college. You're going to play college. And now we're looking beyond college. We are looking at the PWHL. And of course, degrees are super important. I would never tell anybody not to go get their degree because hockey doesn't last forever. But as long as it'll last, I'll be here.
Yeah, and as we kind of wrap up the PWHL segment of the show, if you will, what's really interesting is you had an opportunity, or you have the opportunity to look at the PWHL and again see some of those players that you played with, that you've spoken with, and that inspired you. And knowing that the future generations are now looking at players like yourself who hopefully one day, very soon, will also be playing in the PWHL. There is nothing more inspiring than to be able to know, to have been able to be coached by, or even had one conversation. Every one of those conversations that you have with any one of those players that you're coaching, they will remember that forever. And they will remember it even more so when they're like, that's Megan Warner, and I spoke with her, and I cannot believe that I'm now seeing her live on TV. That must feel really cool.
It's super cool, and I think it also holds me to a higher standard. Knowing that I'm that role model, whether I some days believe it or not. But I do get told that I am definitely a role model to these younger kids by coaches that I was coached by and now coaching with. But it definitely holds me accountable as well in all my actions, in my work ethic. There's always somebody watching. So somebody watching doesn't have to be scouts. It could be younger kids who are just looking up to you. But I think that extra level of being held accountable and having pride in what you're doing, I think is really cool.
Yeah, and that speaks again for any career, any person at all, right? That's absolutely applies to just life in general. So I love that life advice. And as we now move to the last segment of the show, this last segment is just kind of like a free flowing, just an easygoing 20 question, not 20 questions segment of the show. Which is developed. It's the crack team here at the Rinkside Rundown podcast. I always say this. It's the crack team. I have to say that because it's mostly my dog that does the work on this one. So, and he's looking at me. He wants a shout out, so I'll do it. So these questions here are really just like, they're all over the place. They're going to be some really profound questions, hopefully. And some just like easy, super chill questions. Just another opportunity for us to get to know the one and only Megan Warner. Are you ready to take that test now?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, we're going to dive head first. Let's do it. From this past season, when you reflect on it, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the work that the entire team put in. It wasn't always easy. Injuries happened for everybody on the team. But even people who were injured, it didn't matter. They were suiting up. They were still putting 100% effort in. And that's effort throughout the entire process. That starts in training camp and starts with the summer. Everybody always puts 110% in when everyone's watching. But I think the entire team really put in the effort when nobody was watching. And even as we got towards the end of the season, there was still that same level of energy brought to the rink every single day, whether we were hurting, tired. So I think it's just that extra push that every single person on the team had. Super proud of everybody on the team for that one.
And this is one thing that people don't necessarily realize is that I asked you what you were most proud of, and you made it about the team. And that's one thing that's really great about hockey is that it isn't about the individual, it's about the team. So that was a perfect example of what makes hockey such an incredible sport. So great answer. How would you, for the folks who don't know your or haven't had the opportunity to see you play, whether it's in a replay or live, how would you describe your style of play?
Super athletic. Sometimes I'm told I need to calm down a little bit and be a little bit more on angle and position, which I think are very key. But I also know that you can't teach athleticism, you can't teach that competitiveness. So even if I have zero shot of saving that puck, I will be diving. It is full athleticism 100% of the time.
Never a dull moment. I love that approach. What does the quote unquote off season, although again, there's never really an off season for anyone in sports, but what does the off season look like specifically for you, and how has that changed throughout, your junior career now to your collegiate career?
Yeah, so this past summer, which was just a couple weeks ago, I was working two jobs. So I would wake up super early in the morning, go to the gym with my trainer at 7 a.m., work my 9 to 5 job. I was just working at a call center as an internship. And then from 5 o'clock to 8 or 9, I would be working in that gym that I had just been training at, now training younger kids and um, other teams as well. Stony Creek teams would come in as well as some other teams. But then from there, I would leave and go to the rink and go on the ice myself. So that was a pretty typical day. Some days I was on the ice less, some days more, some days I'd add in a scrimmage or two, but pretty much nonstop. All I wanted to do was keep going. I'm not a person who can sit down and relax. My relaxing time is watching hockey or being on the ice. So kind of just keeps it going. I think it's a little bit more of a break when I'm here and I get to actually sit down and just do my homework or sit down and read a book. But summer is go, go, go nonstop. All of my friends are within hockey, especially at home. So, hey, you want to hang out? Yeah, let's grab ice. We'll get some ice from my trainer and then continue that way. But I think the little things that have changed since junior is when I have that off day, as I mentioned, I'll add a little bit of mobility in and I add little things to recover rather than just do nothing all day. I used to actually feel guilty about doing nothing, but now I see the reason that we have those off days and how it can benefit you to have those off days.
Yeah, well, now I just feel like I take way too many of those off days. So this is inspiring for me. So that's good. Um, when it comes to game day, what would you say is your go-to pregame meal?
Chicken and pasta, close to game. But in the morning, I would eat an egg sandwich. I'd eat an egg sandwich every day if I could. It was so good.
Amen. Amen. I do that
Yes.
now, and it's the best part of my day. So I feel you on that one. Any particular sauce on? Is it like an Alfredo? Is it like a pesto on your? Not on this on the sandwich, on the pasta, obviously.
Just tomato sauce. I'm super easygoing. If it's Alfredo that day, it's Alfredo. Um, just super easygoing. If some days if there's no pasta, I'm not gonna throw a fit. I'll have some rice. I'll have something else. It's okay.
All right. Super chill. I like that. During the season, who owned the dressing room music and what was played most often that you recall?
My captain on the music, Ainsley. We also had another senior. Or she was a fifth year at the time. Um, she made her own playlist. She was always ready. Big mix of rap. I wouldn't say it's hardcore rap. Rap with a little bit of pop in there. But for me, I like my country music. A lot of people don't know how you get pumped up with country music, but somehow I do it. Um, I prefer to be a little bit more chill before games rather than I know a couple other teammates listening to rock music in their headphones. But I just like my super chill country music, just gets me in a good mood.
All right. Well, I'm from the country, so I can totally relate to you in terms of the country vibes. And speaking of which, um, I think the answer is obviously something in the country genre. But if you had to think about what would be your go-to, like, I can only listen to this one song for the rest of my life. It doesn't have to play all day, every day. But if I'm going to play a song, what likely country song would that be?
It would have to be Carrie Underwood. I would say Jesus Take the Wheel. It never doesn't hit. It's the
Yeah.
perfect song.
Yeah, it's a good banger. That's a good call. Good call on that one. What's something that remains on your bucket list? And that can be personal or that can be professional. I mean, I would say professional might be getting to the PWHL, those sorts
That
of
was my
things.
first
But
thought.
like, yeah, exactly, which is fair. But it can be wherever you want that question to go. What's something, just something? It doesn't have to be at the top of the list, but what's something on that your bucket list?
I'm gonna stick with getting drafted to the PWHL.
All right, all right. Well, I can't wait to hear
At the
your
front of
name
my
called.
brain.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your name called, and there are going to be a ton of people who are just as excited as me. So that's going to be amazing. What's something that people don't know about Megan Warner?
I'm an American Sign Language major or minor, sorry, minor.
Oh, okay.
So I've taken a lot of American Sign Language classes here. I'm a cognitive science major, so I love anything about the brain. I love knowing how it works. And then I took that into a language department. So I'm minoring in American Sign Language.
Good for you. The number of times I've had interactions with people, I used to know American Sign Language, but the number of times I've had interactions with people, and there's nothing they appreciate more than to be able to actually speak with you rather than
Yes.
just having to type something out or write something out to you. So that's incredible. Um, Lastly, for you, um, what is something that inspires you? And it can be either personal or it can be professional. What's something that inspires you?
I'd say my teammates and my friends, family. Every time, any day I don't want to get up and, let's say, do anything. Um, I know that there are 20 other people on my team who are getting up and going to the rink early. There are so many people in my life that just raise me to this higher standard. Even just girls that I played Stony Creek with, there's so many of us still playing hockey, whether that's U Sports or NCAA. But I know that if they need me to hold them accountable, they'll hold me accountable. So I think my friends and teammates who are my friends, they all just inspire me every day.
Okay, so there are so many things as we're wrapping up now. There are so many things that have stood out to me about this conversation, and I'm going to probably echo what a lot of people will hear from this conversation as well, and that's really two things. One, just how eloquent you are at speaking. You are like you, and maybe it's the cognitive science major that you are. Maybe that's part of it, but also I would say how every time you had a chance to, you spoke about your teammates, you spoke about the other people around you. It was never about you. And I said earlier that, that's something unique, I would say, about the sport of hockey is that it truly, you are only as good as the people around you. But you've really highlighted that. So I just wanted to, as we wrap things up, I just wanted you to know, I think that's something that's going to stand out for a lot of people hearing this. And I think that's something that's going to be really inspiring for a lot of people. So, we talk about inspiration. Well, I think the way that you had this conversation, I think is absolutely going to echo that. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Megan, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. We've talked about how there's really never an off season for a hockey player, but you've still found some time to connect with me today. Busy off season, and I just wanted you to know how much I appreciated that and how much I've appreciated this conversation and being able to connect with you and know that there are going to be a lot. I certainly hope there will be a lot more fans cheering for you throughout this season, but also when they hear your name being called at the draft. So good luck in this coming season. Good luck in your future in the PWHL. And once again, thank you so much for today.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll talk soon.
Absolutely, we will. And there you have it, folks. For Megan Warner, I'm Chris Sinclair, and this has been the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Cheers.